I tell you what, I have been so excited to tell you all about this book, and I'm so glad I finally can. Hello and welcome to my channel. In this video, we are going to be talking about Kiana by Zammar Ahmer, and I have been really looking forward to talking about this. And I put the cover up extra big here because super cool cover. But I actually beta read this, and so was trying to keep it under wraps. But if you recall, I sort of teased that when I was doing my top 10 books of the year so far, there was something else I couldn't quite talk about here, which was this because I absolutely loved this book. I from the moment I started it, I was excited too. It sounds interesting. It's a World War One era fantasy, and even though the author kind of warned me that there was some stuff that he wasn't sure was going to be for me, partially it's quite character focused. There were some romance elements in it too. Um, but I couldn't put this down. And you're reading something special when you're constantly reading, looking for any excuse. And also I found myself, not only was I just reading for as many hours as I could find in the day with it, but I stayed up late several nights in a row. I was super tired the next day because I just wanted to keep reading and getting through this. So let's talk a bit about it. Now, I don't normally talk like the taglines or read the description, but I want to because the comparison I actually had a little bit to do with making here, because the tagline for this one is Robin Hobb meets Fonda Lee in an intimate World War One era saga of family, love, duty, and betrayal, which I think is actually a really good comparison here in general, and we'll talk about that a little bit. But let's do the kind of the description here, the back of the book description, because I think that also gives you a nice idea of what we're getting here. So that is, when I was young, I fell asleep to the song of artillery. We were told we would win, but the enemy never got the message. They came from across the mist with the devil's magic, stole our land, and enslaved our families. And then you decided to send me, of all people, into the fire to bring back the secrets that would save our nation? Are you bloody mad? And gives you, I think, an idea here of the feel of it, but also just a little bit of feel of the titular character, Kiana, because ultimately this is Kiana's story. So I do also want to really quick read just the very beginning here, because I think it gives you such a great example as well of kind of the character and how quickly you see a little bit of the personality coming through. So it starts with, when I was 11, my face exploded. What a dreadful exaggeration. Let me start over. When I was 11, a gun exploded. It just so happened to be beside my face. Why, you may ask, was an 11-year-old holding an exploding Mark V rifle beside her face? That is an excellent question, and really there is no good answer. Suffice it to say, I was never the brightest little girl. And so that's the start here. And again, this is I'm trying to organize my thoughts because I'm legitimately just really excited to talk about this. But this is a very character focused story. It's narrated by our character Kiana, and ultimately it is her story. And it's something that is very engaging and can be very heartbreaking, but I latched on to this character so quickly, and I do not tend to be a primarily a character reader. I'm much more world building focused. I'm interested in like the world, like the bigger things going on here. And yet here I was just sucked in immediately by this character as we learn about her life, which has a lot of tragedy, but it's her life, her story, the trauma she's been through, first love, growing up, becoming an adult, and yes, as the description tells you, eventually being sent off as a part of the war effort. And this is her telling her story. And it also is, there are just so much of it where it's, and she'll even mention too, because the uh the narrative literally is Kiana telling her story, which you'll see very early on who she's telling it to and why. But she's going to tell her story the way that she wants it to be told, and she's going to focus on what she wants to focus on. And it just feels so true to the character as you get to know her. She's not had the greatest life, but definitely has her spunk and her just will to move on and go. And I think the character, again, it's one that you really can relate to. That's sort of where the comparison for me with the sort of like Robin Hobb meets Fonda Lee. This isn't either of those exactly, but the sort of very character centric first person telling their story, dealing with tragedy and loss and love and all of those kinds of emotions definitely does have a bit of a Hobb feel. And I think in some ways this book feels like sort of a love letter to Hobb and like an appreciation of that sort of style. But then the thing that's quite different and made the setting so intriguing is this really is like a World War One era type thing. You have guns, you have planes, you have bombs, and it's set in sort of a World War One timeline where all of the men and then even boys go off to the war effort. Everything's about the war effort, and so it deals with a lot of those items. And so that's where the Fonda Lee part of that comes into, because this isn't like gangs or anything like Greenbone is, but that's in a more modern setting and dealing with very much fantastical elements in a more modern setting, while still really having that fantasy feel, which I also appreciated this because this never feels like urban fantasy where it's like really modern times. But also, I don't think that I've read anything else quite with this sort of time period either. So reading something in the World War One era I think was really interesting. And I know from talking to the author too that he did a lot of reading of sort of like historical fiction and things from the time period to kind of inform some of what he was doing here. And I think it shows in a really good way. This is definitely one of those novels that it is quite long. It's a bit of a chonker, but I found myself just flying through it and unable to put it down. It's quite engaging and easy to read, and it's just you're really, as long as you click with the character and the world and the story, you get there. And the world building, while this isn't world building focused like I sometimes like, it's also done with so much subtlety where you just get these little tidbits of the world, of like the lore, like what the people from the country that Kiana's from, what they believe versus the sort of the people they're fighting against. And even with that description, they came with the devil's magic, and so you get that look. So there's depth in religion, in history, in culture, and you get so much of that that's just a part of the story, and it's integrated into the story so well that while you're not getting the like big things where we spend time, there's no info dumps just telling you all about this kind of thing, or like, oh, we're gonna talk about the history of this land. You get it all through the narrative in such an organic way that just makes sense. And I love all those little tidbits. I think it's a great way to do it. And it can be hard to put in that kind of organic world building, but it's one of the most satisfying ways to do world building and to read it. And so I greatly enjoyed that here as well. And even the parts, because there is this is kind of split up into multiple books like sections, as the character, starting with the young life, growing up, and then getting older. And even the part that was romance focused just felt so genuine to me. It felt so genuine, and it just, I don't know, even that didn't slow me down at all. Sometimes I'm like, okay, I don't really want to read this much. I'm not super focused. But even the parts that were focused on there, there was so much going on that I was engaged with. And I was so engaged with the character as well by the time I got to those parts. At no point did it slow me down whatsoever. And just as you find out more and as you kind of see where the story's going, it's also, one of those stories you sort of know what the end game is, you know where you're going to get to, but it's very much the journey that I enjoyed so much there. I felt like I could have just kept listening to this character tell me about their life in more details. For even way longer. So it's like when you move past and you jump forward, I'm like, I could have stayed here and kept going. But also the additional later parts are really engaging as well. And you get more and you see more too, because you start with a girl who is very sheltered in a lot of ways, because while a lot of trauma and horrible things that she has to deal with just her father who works for the military making guns and he's always away, her mother who is ill and ranges from being catatonic and or not in her right mind to sometimes being there. It's the type of setting where brothers, fathers, everybody goes off. So it's this character and her people and the culture, and kind of dealing with that and dealing with the realities of who she is, and just not really fully fitting in anywhere and dealing with so many of those things. And the thing I also find really fascinating here is I feel like you could take this book, cut it in half, make it a lot simpler, like prose wise and idea wise, and turn it into a YA novel. I think there are some elements that are used in YA novels, especially with like the coming of age type of items and those types of things, but it never once does any of the things that drive me nuts in YA novels. It never like talks down to you as the reader, and it's just really, it's we happen to be learning about this person's whole life, and that includes some of the younger elements here. And so it's just, it really, it works. It very much reads as adult fantasy, which is my forte, and I think also shows where it's just like, see, you can use those elements. Sometimes when I feel like I'm complaining about YA novels, it's like, it's not that you can't do the YA stuff, but when you oversimplify things, or try to make it too easy, sometimes it just irritates me. And I never got that here as well too. It's really done a lot of subtlety. I have read his he had a duology, the Book of Estea, which was more like Abercrombie kind of styled, which was a little bit less my thing, but that series was so focused on world building and unique stuff that I really enjoyed it. And I can see too so much growth from the author here, from those books to this now, and this just really feels like something special to me. I like I said, I devoured this. I really enjoyed this. I think, especially for character readers, I think this is going to be one that is going to work very, very well. You do have to be okay with it being kind of a slower narrative as we go along here, but it doesn't. It is long, but it doesn't necessarily feel slow even when it is, if that makes sense. There are definitely times where we are spending some time because we're, the characters reminiscing. They're remembering the things that were important to them, and that also, it just, again, it makes it feel so genuine. It never feels like we're going to tell you about this now because that's what the author wants you to know. No, it's, this is what this character who felt so very real to me, this is what they want to tell. This is what they want to talk about. And they don't really care necessarily about what they might be supposed to say or supposed to do. It's, they want to tell their story the way that they're going to tell it, and that's the way it's going to be. And that just, that flair, the personality of the character, and the way the character ages over time too, as well, which is done really well. Also, something that reminded me a bit, one of my favorite things in the Greenbone saga. I was one of the people that I didn't really love anything until the last book, and the last book, it was more so seeing the broad changes over time, seeing that the characters get older, but also the world more developed. And so that's where you get that sort of like generational type of saga here really well. And it is just one book, although like I said, it is quite long, but that's where you really, you see that and you get those elements, and it just, I love getting to spend that kind of time with a character in the world, see things change, and yet it does feel so intimate. It just, with the style of the narration and the character, it's this, wow, it does expand and it gets bigger and you find out more. And I haven't even like talked about the magic, which from the cover, I'll pop the cover back up for a minute here as well too. You can already see some magic at play here, uh, and that's also, which this isn't really a spoiler, but the magic is what their enemies have. The enemies have magic, whereas they have more like World War I era, like guns, tech, and that type of thing. So immediately, like something super cool, I would probably read a whole book that's just about like the fighting and the war with tech versus magic, because I think that's really cool to explore. But that's another example of these elements are really cool. And it's not like they're half baked or they're there for just set dressing or anything like that. It is an integral part of the world, but we're also focused on the characters. So we get to see all of these glimpses organically as a character sees things, as they experience things. And it maintains that sort of intimate focus on the character, even when we're seeing more things, we're going off and doing things and learning other things. And it's just, there's so many just beautiful moments, so many tragic moments, so many just very, very compelling moments here. And you'll sometimes be frustrated with the character too. It's very real, and especially we're starting with them being younger. It's like they don't always make the best decisions. They don't always do the right thing, and sometimes things work out, sometimes they don't. But again, I never once felt that like, oh, this character is just going to do something stupid because I need the plot to go this way. It always felt, all of their actions felt so genuine, so real, and it's something that is so hard to do for me. And that's also where I feel like in the first 9 books, I have to specify, I think Hobb does that really well with, you're following a character who's not always going to make the right decisions. Sometimes there's something that would probably make things easier or make more sense in some ways but it's just not what that character would do, and so that's not what happens. And that just, yeah, I feel like this really blew me away. I was expecting to like this. I was not expecting to love this, and it's so rare. I feel like too, you get in early on a book and just already love it that much. I am excited already to, because as I've been talking about this, I really want to just go back and read it again here. I don't think much is changed from the version that I read too, because I'll tell you something too. Usually, when you're at the beta reading stage, it's like a really early copy. There's things changing. I feel like it was very polished by the time here as well, and very ready. I mean, could have been, like arc versus beta reading with the probably very minimal differences here, but I'm so excited for this. So excited to get to talk about it. I am hoping to have the author on my Book Chats and Beyond show very soon to just talk more there as well here too. And it's just, yeah, this has been a really great read. I've interacted with this author a fair bit, and him and myself and Ben from Books with Genghis Khan too. We have like a reading group where we read Guy Gabriel Kay and some other things too. So I've gotten to interact with him a ton, and just seeing the growth and just falling in love with the story too has been absolutely great, and being able to just like directly talk back to the author, it's always so much fun. That's one of the things I love the most about being a booktuber, is when I get to interact with authors and directly talk to them about their stories, especially the ones that I love. So had a really great time. I cannot recommend this enough. Definitely something to check out. It is going to be out on September 15th, so it is coming here pretty soon in the next few weeks. Please give it a shot. And definitely let me know if you do, because I also want more people to talk about this book with. So somewhat selfishly also, I'm recommending, because I really, really just want to chat about it. I also can't wait to get a physical copy, because again, I'm just gonna the cover one more time, because this is just such a cool cover. Again, I feel like it's just really, really gives you sort of an idea with your character there, the cool magic in the back there, and just so much cool stuff. I really love the cover, really loved the book. This is like I said, I didn't officially rank it because I couldn't quite talk about it yet, but this is absolutely one of my favorite things that I've read this year. And I had some other great stuff I read, but this is just, yeah, I really enjoyed this book. I am pretty confident it's going to be in my top 10 for the year overall. And I can't wait to talk more about it and dive back into it too, and probably reread it, just because, again, I don't know, this engaged me just so hard, and that's always just a special thing when a book does that. So anyway, those are my thoughts on Kiana by Zammar Ahmer. And yeah, again, let me know if this sounds like something up your alley, or if this has piqued your interest, because I'm really excited for more people to check this out and talk about it, because this is just definitely a winner for me, and I'm excited for more people to get to it. So those are my thoughts. Make sure to give the video a like if you enjoyed it. Check the links in the description, as always, for the Patreon if you want to support what I do, as well as the Wizardly Enclave Discord if you want to chat books, whether this book, other books, really anything at all. It's a lot of fun, and we'd love to have you. And of course, if you enjoy my content, make sure to subscribe.